I definitely underestimated this tiny raft. It ended up completely changing the way I was able to film my last solo project. Something where the gear choices that I make is always in flux, changing from project to project, and I feel like it's never quite working. Most of the time when I do these alone video experiences, they are seriously a logistical challenge, and it's always a balance of living in the moment versus trying to do a good job with the video. And I always come back with them with takeaways of things that I wish that I did differently. And this project, of course, was no different, so I'm gonna share my regrets, but there's a lot of things that actually went really well, so let's talk about it. Well, this raft has a special trick up its sleeve, or rather inside its sleeve. Either way, it is always a challenge to decide how much and which gear to bring with me. Be prepared and more comfortable, or take more camera gear. And that's why this fancy little inflatable raft ended up becoming an absolute game changer for me on this last trip. It was small enough that I could fly with it. And then when I was setting it up, I could actually store my gear inside the raft itself, then make it sealed, completely waterproof, inflate it, and thus was able to carry a lot more gear with a lot more efficiency of travel than I ever have before. And I'm used to carrying sometimes up to 60 pounds for my film projects. That's not out of the ordinary. So spreading out that weight and then getting to then float along as my mode of transportation was seriously awesome. And on this trip, I had some unique limitations because I didn't bring any food with me, and I was using the raft as transportation. So that helped me save calories so I could focus on what my goal was of the trip, of having this unique experience of trying to catch my food while being alone in the Canadian wilderness. This is just pristine, untouched terrain. I haven't seen another human out here. It's just so cool. And of course, if there's more questions, you can just drop them in the comments, and I'll always try to go back and forth with you. And I always glean stuff from other people's experience in the comments. So if you have some suggestions for me, I'd love to hear them. A really awesome addition for me are these Bedrock sandals. They're like flip-flops, but with a heel strap, so they behave like Chacos. But they're half the weight of Chacos, and they've got incredible Vibram soles. I'm running some Patagonia kind of clamshell opening cases with vented windows so you can kind of see everything that's going around. On this trip, the bugs have just been crazy. So definitely bug spray is a big one. I keep items like my air rocket in here. This little kit right here is an Osprey, and this is just personal toiletries. So it folds out and opens like that. I got the blister tape, I got Band-Aids, sunscreen, and lip chap all in here. Gloves. These have been a favorite of mine lately. They're from Outdoor Research. They're leather on the palm, and they've been really durable. I like them because they're just agile enough that I can operate a camera with it when it's getting cold out. Some essential safety items. Travel with the Spot. I can send text messages to anybody. I can get weather reports. This is a vital piece, especially on this trip, being so far out there with no one to check in on me. I also have bear spray with me because we're in prime grizzly territory. Also have a bear banger. This is just basically like a flare that shoots up, lots of noise. My poop kit, so a little trowel, shovel, toilet paper, wet wipes. Keeping that in a dry bag is really helpful. These mosquitoes are crazy. Another item I really like is this cooking tube setup. This was originally designed for water bottles and it was insulated, but I pulled out the insulation and tried to just basically make it as light as possible. But this is what I put my cooking supplies in. On this trip, I didn't bring any food, so this is a little bit different, but I still wanted to be able to make coffee. And also if I was able to forage some mushrooms or things like that, I want to be able to cook those. So I've got a tiny little stove here that packs down into this orange case. So I store those inside of this cheapo Amazon titanium pot, which is incredibly light. And then I stack other things like my coffee cup, coffee grounds. I've got my storm matches. I've got my lighter. Inside here, pull it open. I've got my fillet knife. I've got an extra fire starter magnesium. Basically, a majority of the items that I would need to actually have a good time and make food is inside of here. Let's talk camera stuff. The heaviest I'm running on this trip is because of the camera gear. You could do this trip a lot lighter if you were not making a video about it. This is a little carbon fiber pole that extends out, and I've been using this as a selfie stick for the Insta1X. But I'll just run this off that and shove it in the back of the raft, shove it in the forward of the raft. This pole is quite adaptable, and it also converts into a light stand. So this is my absolute favorite selfie stick for out doing stuff. I just managed to break and bust selfie sticks. I haven't that one yet. The drone. This thing is insane. This is the Mavic 3 Cine. I'm borrowing this from Trent Palmer. Thank you, Trent. The flight time on this thing is about 45 minutes. So the weight on it is a little big for this trip, but the flight time being 45 minutes is incredibly helpful, especially because this is gonna be a drone heavy piece and I'm gonna be on water. So that moment where you wanna try to get it into land, just having some of that extra runtime is very helpful. And the image quality from it is incredible. I'm running my personal camera kit out of this Shimoda single unit here. This is the small one, this core unit. I have it in a skin here with the shoulder strap, so when I'm running around and grabbing other shots. The lenses, I'm running a 24-105, f4, stabilized, great lens. And then over on the camera right now, I have a Tamron 17-28. I've got a shotgun mic on top. And then for lavs, I'm running the Tentacle Sync 32-bit float recorders that have the time code thing, so I can be running that into the camera as well, get great sound of the planes taking off, all that stuff. It's a pretty good setup. But I think the MVP of this trip is definitely the Tentacle pocket recorder. I could get consistently great sound as a one-person crew for up to 10 hours recording time in one go, which most wireless systems are nowhere near that. So this was really, really helpful for me, and I constantly find the sound I capture with these things to be really, really helpful, even when my cameras aren't running. Things like airplanes taking off, all the audio doesn't peak. Really, really happy with how this audio system is coming together for me. I also had a GoPro with me. This was helpful because I could run it in pre-roll mode. That essentially means that it's constantly saving what it sees, and then the second you press the button, it will start recording from 30 seconds previous. So if something cool happens, like catching a fish, you press the button and it will capture the moment where you actually got the fish on the line. This is very handy for filming fish things because you're just standing there for hours and hours and hours on end, and you can't just leave things recording, unlike I had to do with my Sony, which just burned through memory cards and batteries. It was definitely a problem. If you want me to do a breakdown of the cinematography or any of the technical filmmaking aspects of the project, let me know what kind of questions you have. I'm going to do a full-length Adventure Film Academy episode on this. So if you're not subscribed over there on that channel, you definitely should be. Some really great value coming there, just completely no cost, straight to YouTube. Okay, let's talk about power and keeping all these batteries charged, because for better or for worse, when you're making a video on things are always getting drained and running out of juice. Things like the 360 camera, I don't have tons of batteries for it, so I need to always be trying to get it on charge. I really like these 3-way USB cables. Awesome, it's got lightning, it's got USB-C and micro, so I can get everything charged with one of these cables, and also charge multiple things at the same time, because you don't always have tons of power banks with you, and when you're going to sleep overnight, some things charge kind of slowly, so having this is amazing. And then for actually getting more power, that's where I want to talk about the sponsor of this video. One of the first things I pack into the truck when heading out on any sort of adventure these days is a portable power station. They're kind of like the Swiss Army knife of keeping my gear powered and charged. And on top of that, it always feels good to be at the family camp out and to be the one who can charge everyone else's phones and electronics when they're going dead. It's awesome to be the one who actually comes prepared. But I'm going to share how I use this power station as an essential piece of my video workflow. But first, I just wanted to tell you about this massive sale on this unit that I've been testing, as well as everything else on their entire site. The model they sent me to test is the AC200L. And now if you're unfamiliar, a power station like this is essentially just like taking the outlets in your house, except outside with you, which is awesome. So it has incredibly efficient batteries inside of it for safely storing loads of power. And then it has all the technology alongside that inside the box itself to then use that power in whichever way you may need. It's seriously not messing around in the power output capacity. It's got a 30 amp outlet on it for things like RVs, or in my case, I can power my whole shipping container thanks to its 2400 watt inverter, which also has a surge mode up to 3600 watts, all in this small box. And what that also means is that if you're like me and you forget to charge it before you go out, you can charge it up to 80% in just 45 minutes. But one of my favorite ways to charge it is just using the DC power adapter in your car, just constantly topping it up. So that way, when you actually get somewhere, you then can use all of that power. So this is really helpful around the house, especially going into the winter for things like power outages, if you want to keep those essential things running. But then it's a really nice quality of life tool for actually then
using all of the other electronics that a lot of us tend to use in our life. So don't let the specs overwhelm you. The important part is that this will let you use power in the way that you want to. Just plug and play. You won't need to understand anything about wiring or electricity. Plug in your devices and go. And then it's got all the helpful info right on the display to let you know how much power you're using when it's running out. And as far as capacity goes, to give you a rough idea, you could charge your laptop 28 times with this unit. So you could charge your friend's laptop and you could then share the power. So it's actually got 200 watt USB-C. And this is actually the most used outlet for me because I like that high output DC outlet. It's really efficient and almost all my important electronics charge with this method. So having two high output ones is really awesome for fast charging. This unit is the AC200L, and they are actually currently running a site-wide sale where you can get up to 50% off until December 2nd. So I highly recommend checking out the Bluetti links in the description, and I want to thank them for supporting this video. Now, with video production and content creation, a power station like this has become an essential part of my Basecamp workflow. So I used to actually take around a generator. I've even flown one to the top of a mountain. Which becomes a hassle because you've got this gas to deal with, fuel, and then you also have noise, which is just a complete buzzkill at camp. So with a battery generator, you can just charge it with solar with your vehicles. And I don't find it's ever a lack of power that I'm needing. It's just finding times to then top up all the batteries at once. So what I like to do is carry around these smaller battery banks and then charge up as many of those as I can when we're back at camp, get those fully charged, and then take those smaller ones out into the field with me. So I usually have pretty good luck taking about a 10,000 milliamp hour smaller battery bank. I like taking multiples, and then I can charge up all the things as we go and are actually filming and I'm hiking around alone. And then when I come back to my equipment and kind of reset, recharge, then I can come back and get everything topped back up before we head back out again.
Make sure you get one with power delivery because then it can take USB-C for charging and deliver it and also rapid charge things. So that makes such a difference. So things like charging your drone batteries in the evening, you can get more power into it. So I can use a battery bank for so many different accessories and things that I'm doing out here. And for better or for worse, when I'm filming, I'm thinking in terms of battery usage and power and storage. So being able to extend all those things helps me do a better job on my adventure stories. For my camera bag, I've been running the Shimoda Action X50. This bag is my all-time favorite, aside from the larger model. This one is such a good size. And these gatekeeper extender strap things allow you to basically strap stuff to the bottom of the bag. So these are really, really handy. And the material is waterproof essentially, except for the zippers. So I had it in between my legs while paddling and water's just pouring over the bag and all the gear inside was nice and dry. They do have a rain cover. I basically don't take that on any trips though. So that bag's what I'm running all my gear items out of. And it also is just really good for quick access to all the items and the way I store stuff in it. So as I'm out shooting, it makes it pretty easy to shoot out of it. So I put this small core unit in the top of the roll top there and some other systems like that. If I get a lot of rain, or if I'm going to be going down a heavy water section, I actually drop the Action X50 inside of this larger 70-liter dry bag. So that way it is 100% waterproof. Because when you're out on the water, you don't want to risk really damaging your stuff. So if the rain just starts pouring down, the bag immediately goes in here. And then I've also been using this as a seat on the raft tripods. It's a big struggle, but it's important to get a setup that you like. I've been running this Enduro Stealth tripod legs for quite a while. This is about year 8 for me with them, and they've been working very well. They're lightweight, they're sturdy, they get the job done, but I've normally been running it with a ball head. And the ball head is very helpful because of how small it is. And on a lot of these adventure trips, the weight, the size of things, it's pretty important. But a new item that I think you should check out is this small rig, really tiny fluid head. So it's not perfect, and it's not like the big fluid heads that have counterweights and things like that, but it does work very well for getting some amount of movement into your tripod shot. So I've been trying to track with airplanes taking off and various things like that. And this little guy actually works out very well. So it's got a collapsible handle, which is very nice because then it can just tuck away in your bag, but you can take out the handle. It's got an Arca Swiss plate on top. And then you've got a pan and tilt rotating head. So one of the downsides of this is it's not self-leveling, so you got to play around with the legs a little bit more. But this setup right here is a massive improvement over my ball head, and it's very small. So I can actually justify taking this on a trip, and it works very well for doing all the things I need a little tripod to do. And of course, I always run Arca Swiss on all my stuff, and I use the small rig cages that have Arca Swiss built in on the bottom. For my tent, I'm running the Big Angus Copper Spur Bike Packing Edition high volume. So very nice high roof, which makes spending time in it when it's bad weather way more enjoyable. It's a 2-person, which means it's just big enough for me with all my camera gear. I'm running an Enlightened Equipment quilt. So this is a new addition to me. The quilt is just insanely light and small. This is a 5°C model. Definitely not quite warm enough for this trip because we're hitting below 0, but that's okay. I'm running just a uber light sleeping pad with a pillow. So all of my sleeping gear just goes into a waterproof stuff stack, and it goes very small, and the tent is also ridiculously small. For a knife, I'm running a Cashram bushcraft knife, Scandi grind, really effective for doing all the wood stuff I need to do, batoning wood, and also dealing with the fish that I catch. The pack raft. This thing is an absolute beauty. I've wanted to do a pack rafting trip ever since my buddy RJ from InMist made a video about it. I think maybe a decade ago or more now. So it's been a long time coming. And my friend Sam is the retailer for them in Canada. So he's got a lot in his rental fleet, and he helped me get this set up. So this is one of their lighter weight models, and I'm running it basically bare bones. So without the skirt, I'm not bringing a helmet. We're not doing big whitewater raft. We're not doing any big whitewater sections. What I love is just how small it packs down. It really unlocks a lot of cool adventure opportunities. So I'm kind of brainstorming some different bike packing things I want to do. And I don't know, all the gears are turning, and I'm hoping I can make the video from this trip do well, so that way I can justify just investing a lot of time into trying to make more adventures like that. And to be honest, even if it doesn't do well, I will be doing more pack rafting stuff. So inside of it, this is a big T-zipper that opens up into the unit itself. And I've been storing items inside it, like my sleeping bag, my tent, just basic soft goods stuff that I don't need during the day. This was the section that I was most unprepared for and the least experienced with. So my buddy Jake, who's a fishing guide, really helped me get dialed in here, and I'm borrowing a lot of this equipment. This is a 5-weight fly fishing rod. I got to put a buff on here. This is just getting crazy with the mosquitoes. So I'm running just the one rod. And then for my tackle box kind of items, I'm borrowing this from Trent as well. It's a small little portable unit with a zip top. Lots of flies going on here, different types. Lots of extra line for if I break line off. Some needle nose pliers, which are helpful for tying on new flies and getting hooks out of mouths with fish. I have to catch some fish. This little unit is pretty slick. I like how it's just nice and lightweight. Just add it to the waders.
The least prepared aspect of this trip by far was the clothing. I brought waders that I got from Amazon. So let me be clear. I only knew about the trip 2 weeks before, and I just barely got even Amazon 2-day shipping. I barely got something in on time. Turns out nobody uses this style of waders with the boots integrated because usually the boots are garbage, and you need good grip in the river so you don't fall over like a goofball, which I definitely almost did in the Amazon one. So I borrowed stuff from the old used gear closet at the camp, and it was too small for me, had holes, and the boots were very, very tight, which I thought was going to be okay. It kind of wasn't. I think I would have been better with the Amazon thing, even though it was more slippery, because my feet were basically wet from the moment that I would go into the river, and I was in the river for 10 plus hours a day. So my feet, you could imagine, were awful, and the water was not warm. So that was actually one of the really challenging parts about the trip, and I didn't want to just keep complaining about it. So I kind of didn't include that because it was just my own damn fault. But that was not very nice. And then on the flip side of that, I only brought sandals as my other footwear. And this sounds kind of silly, but it's worked for me in the past. It's just in this instance, even though it's summer, when you're that far up north, they don't care about summer up there apparently. And it definitely got below 0 still. So when I woke up in the morning, one of these mornings, I only had my sandals, and I brought hand warmers with me. And I was like shoving hand warmers underneath my toes and just shivering on the spot for a good hour before the sun came up. That was the most physically, that was more miserable than how hungry I got, for sure. If this kind of stuff is interesting to you, I highly recommend you join my email newsletter, because I send out really detailed behind the scenes explanations of all the different projects I'm working on. So that's kind of like the inside track. If you want the info, head there to get it. And also, if you like videos that I make, go watch some of the other ones. I've got some awesome winter ones, and I'm very excited for winter camping coming up. That's it for this one. Remember, life's better when you make stuff. Peace.